Hey, feisty kittens. So, I wanted to pop in really quick. It's been a really long day at the beginning of, it seems like already, like it's just the beginning of the week. It's already stretched out. Everyone's kind of panicking over the coronavirus. Like, how are you doing? Like, if you're in one of those countries, like, are really seeing like a rapid acceleration, then bless up. Like, I don't know, it just seems like it's moving fast. But if in case you are just kind of overwhelmed with all of the coronavirus just talk, it just seems like it's everywhere, it's saturating. And then the thing is like we can get ourselves hyped up because there's a lot of talk about it, but not really a whole lot of information or whole lot of new information, and not a lot of details about the information that we actually have. Like here in Denver, like they just said just the other day, we had like 2 confirmed cases, then it jumped to 9 and then 19, but they keep putting the numbers out, but they're not giving any detail or context behind it, so people were panicking. So if you haven't had a chance to already, go check out this week's episode. It's Costco, the coronavirus, and just some ways that you can just really keep your mental health intact, stay focused, so that you don't get overwhelmed by all of the crazy. And it's like, so just some tips on staying healthy mentally and emotionally, like throughout the entire process. So definitely go check that out on the blog. If you have, I mean, go check that out, that episode, if you haven't already downloaded or listened to it. What? You didn't know it came out? That's why you have to like and subscribe. It's true. So you think that we just yelled that at you, like and subscribe. But really, it's so if you like and you subscribe, then it makes sure if you're subscribed that you get the episodes before anybody else does. It's like sometimes, like with my player, they literally will download right to your device. So you don't even have to do any extra legwork. If you're subscribed, you're the first in the know. Yeah, you could have been already working on these mental health tips like days ago. So that's if you want to check out the blog. Also, one of the things that that really motivated me and inspired me, because sometimes I do a weekly ish podcast, but this time like there was just so much going on, and I just felt like I got to get this out there. I got to get this out there. And one of the things that just really had me motivated this week is that I did a really awesome interview with Oliver Say from talkwitholiver.com. Awesome. So you got to check it out. Now, if you're on the Instagram page, Straight from the Hip with Courtney, it's like if you're on the Instagram or if you're on the Facebook page, then you've seen me like post a lot of the interview. I did the full length audio because it's actually, you can go check it out in the YouTube video. You can check it out on his site, and it's talkwitholiver.com. If you're looking for the podcast, you can search for it, and it's, I think the episode is Talk with Oliver and Courtney Jones. And it's like, so you should be able to search and you'll be able to pull it up. But it's all over. I've got it on the Facebook page and on the blog as well. And I did do a full length episode just so that you guys could hear it. And it just was incredible. And one of the things that I really liked was the premise on this one was that it was coming with no real prep for the actual interview. It was literally, let's toss a question out to the host, and then we're going to run with it and just see where the hour goes. And it was an incredible rabbit hole to fall down to. Like, it was really nice. Oliver, my new friend from across the pond, he's in the UK. So it was just really interesting just to see, like, the different viewpoints. The question that should I tell you the question that I actually asked? I don't know. I might save that for the end of this video, but I did ask a question that sparked off like an incredible conversation that was all about like awareness, not just awareness of what's going on around you, but also deep and intense and internal self-awareness, being aware of self and what your motivations and what your triggers are, understanding that you don't have to overthink it. Like, it's like, oh my God, you don't have to overthink it. It's like life, personal growth, it should be a natural and easy process. So just talking about some of the ways that that turns out, and yeah, it was just a really good conversation. And I found that it was really interesting because there wasn't any preconceived notions, there wasn't any bias there. I do get that sometimes not everybody wants to interview with me. They're like, oh God, I don't know. And it's like, and that's one of the things that we were talking about, even in just how you perceive things or how you perceive what might be an obstacle, or that I always tell people, if you can't go through it, then go around it, under, above it. Like there's 1,000 ways that you can move through like any challenge that life is throwing at you. And so that was a lot of what we discussed as well. You know, I've been getting the bounce back program ready. So just really talking about digging deep into your resilience, into your ability to bounce back no matter what life handles and what life throws at you. And so that was one of the things that I thought about just all this week. And it was one of the things that kept jumping out with me, like all this week, it seems like since this weekend, was some of those things that we talked about. One of those being just preconceived, like going into a situation thinking that you already know, and it's like, and so it kind of blocks you a little bit. And one of the things that I saw that with, even with the interviewing, a lot of people don't necessarily want to be interviewed by me or interview me because they think that they already know what the conversation is going to be. And so I think it's interesting the feedback that I've gotten already from this week's episode of the podcast, because people are like, oh, well, I didn't know that you talked about that. Or, oh, I didn't know that that was going to be your perspective. Oh, look how much of this delicious goodness you've been missing out on because you thought you already knew. And see, and that's the thing. So it's like, because somewhere down the line, yeah, well, I'll get into that later. But so there's this preconceived notion there. A lot of times people think that I'm like mean. They think that I'm very like, very, I don't know. It's like I'm not really sure because people are always surprised, like once they actually talk to me. So I'm not really sure what the original conception is of me or what the original perception is. But it does, like, people do kind of hesitate. And so in listening into this week's episode, I've had a lot of feedback with people saying like, oh, so that's what you talk about. The conversation with Oliver, like I said, very deep, went more than an hour and a half. And during that conversation, I was able to actually really talk about a lot of what I know, what I've experienced, where I've just not been able to do that before. On my podcast, I don't want to ramble the whole time about me and my life and what's going on with it. And I'm not rambling on anybody in any place else. So it's like, it was just a really good way for me to talk about some topics that are interesting to me, that my experience revolves around. And to see that, and for other people to see what my range is, just as far as like, I guess maybe the wisdom set, what my knowledge is. So that was just an excellent opportunity. And again, thank you so much, Oliver, for having me on the show. But so I kind of taking some of the takeaways from that interview, stepped into the weekend, was very excited. And then it was like, I don't know what it is. Part of that, what we were talking about on Oliver's show was about the law of attraction. And that's kind of where his forte is. And that's where his teaching is around. And a lot of the work that he does with his clients is around the law of attraction. So myself, it's something that I've always lived. It's something that even as a young child, I was taught to implement. So that part of it, for me, it was more, and what I've always said on blogs, on my Facebook, everything, is how do you take the knowledge, that wisdom of the law of attraction, what some people call the woo-woo, how do you take that and literally blend that into practical, like day-to-day spirituality? Like, how does it go from a concept to a knowing and then a being, and like actually becoming a part of who you are? And it's like, so that's kind of what we were discussing, and just some ways that you could do that. And so I was just kind of trying to take that into the weekend with me, and it was just the weirdest thing. It's like I was just getting hit left and right with like all the weirdness that I was talking about, like on this show. So I just thought, I'm like, what is happening here? So I just felt like, okay, it's showing up enough that maybe it's something that I should have a dialogue about. So that's exactly what I tried to do.